The age of advisors going door-to-door and cold calling are over. Enter into the new world of the virtual advisor. The market is as vast as an ocean, and far too many advisors are missing the boat and the monetary opportunity that's been staring them in the face. In this video, Jeremiah dives deep into the one platform that's changing the game, LinkedIn. With him are Chris, an advisors coach who used a simple yet underused LinkedIn framework to increase his revenue by 625% in just 12 months. And Dan, an advisor who is currently using the same approach to accelerate his own practice's growth. So, if you're ready to say goodbye to cheesy generic profiles and hello to a lead-generating LinkedIn presence that builds authority and puts you in touch with pre-qualified prospects at scale, well, stay tuned.
All right, guys, we're going to cut the screen right now and jump into our live Virtual Advisor Power Hour interview. First one of 2021. And why I'm super excited. Dan, you want to come on, turn on your camera? You've been so cool sitting back there. Yes, there's our man, guys. We're giving a big virtual applause to our buddy Dan. Dan, you are a longtime Power Hour attendee. How long have you been? When did you start watching the Power Hours?
It was probably about a month in. I saw him and I just was like, I'm on the West Coast, so it was like 5 o'clock. I'm going home. I'm not going home. What am I doing? And I finally said, one night I was here. I'm like, might as well see what it's all about. It's a good decision.
Awesome. And you've been really consistent. You've been, thank you for just all the wins of the week. Like, you're a guy, what we love about advisors like you is you're an action taker. So because, you're here, we got hundreds of advisors watching this right now. Just in 60 seconds or less, can you tell us how'd you get into this business and what do you do?
60 seconds, that might be a bit much.
I know that's a challenge for advisors, okay? So
started cold calling a bucket shop in New York out of college. Didn't work out, got into construction. Knew that was not a long-term future, and then got in the mutual fund industry and ended up in Canada for 5 years and got on the retail side. And been running my own practice for the last 5 years.
That's great. And where are you right now?
Outside of San Francisco, in the East Bay in California.
Yeah. Well, now you really have a soft spot in my heart because you lived in my home country for 5 years. So I was born and raised in Montreal. Where in Canada were you?
Beautiful Victoria.
Oh, Victoria, BC. Wow. That's awesome. God's country. I love it.
Key West of Canada.
Good. So Dan, let's talk about your journey on LinkedIn, right? What first of all made you invest? So just full disclosure, right? Dan's a client of ours. He not only was a power attendee and he decided to upgrade to the Shift Accelerator program, and he took the plunge. So what was it like? Where did we find each other in your journey of solving the number one issue, which is I don't have enough meetings? So tell us what was going on in your practice before you jumped in.
So the whole I think one of the key things with this Shift Accelerator was for most people was getting that niche. I had the niche before I started the company. I focus on 2 companies, and I had done another thing on I met a guy on LinkedIn, did his LinkedIn generation program, and I wound up having 1,200 connections at one of my key companies already. And it was great. I was sending out these messages kind of similar to what the automated system does for you manually with spreadsheets. And I used to have a full head of hair when I was doing that. And enough was enough. I was like, I can't keep doing that. So, I built this list and then I was emailing out to it. And it was just, there was no reason for anybody to engage. They connected, but there was just not that follow-up. So, I was looking at my messages and all of that. This month alone, I've reached out to 987 people, which if they all went through and no one responded and all the automated messages would go out, that's 6,000 messages that I don't have to send. So wow. That's what, to me, it was the thing that sunk into me was when you, in the presentation, when you showed the, like every prospect and the little matrix that they went through, and it was like, I was like, yeah, I've lived that, and this is so much easier because since November 16th, when I put up my first program up, or first campaign up, I've only not gotten connections 4 days since then. And
Wow.
tomorrow, after tomorrow, if I have a normal day of connections, I'll go over 400 connections since November 16th.
Wow, amazing. Now it's kind of interesting because when you use a spammy hacky way, you need thousands of connections to get a few appointments. But when you use niching, targeting, an improved profile, and a summary section using our reverse prospecting method, which is what we teach in the accelerator, you don't need that many connections to get the right, because it's not about the large number of connections, it's about the right connections, right? You guys want to have 5,000 connections and 10 appointments, or do you want to have 400 connections and 20 appointments?
Yeah.
Right? See, I think people get geeked out on the numbers. Like they think it's like Instagram followers, right? I got 37,000 followers. Everyone loves me when I do selfies. That's not what this is about. This is about quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you get started in the program?
With your guys' program I did the first iteration there, but my first campaign went up on November 16th.
Okay, and then tell us a little bit about what was it like for you to start having meetings virtually with people who were not referrals, they didn't come from a circle of influence, and it was all virtual. Like that's one thing I'd appreciate if you could just kind of give us a little bit of your world, because I think a lot of people on the Power Hour, they want to go there, they're just not sure, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I'm probably playing the long game on most of that, because I'm truly trying to do that. Like you always express, service first. How can I help you? And not so much, trying to sell them something out the door. And so I've wound up having several calls with a bunch of people already. And it's just that, truly that first, 15-minute call, I've got to get better at, shortening it up. But that 15-minute call generally winds up being about a half-hour call. But no one was like, I got to go and trying to chew their arm off. They're like, you're giving value. They want to hear more. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to follow up with you. And, what do you say, in a week, if I haven't heard back from you on this, is that okay with you? And yep, that's fine. And yeah, some people drop off, and that's fine, because I'm not so much worried about them dropping off. Because the one thing I think about what I'm trying to accomplish, like you're saying about it's not a numbers game, it's not. But for me, the connections, that's how I was getting testimonials without getting testimonials. Because I have people at my 2 target companies that when they connect, we have 100 people in common. So it's almost like, how do I not know you? Right? And so I'm getting those connections. And now that, we've got the testimonial thing, and as we talked earlier, I'm going to have a chance to ask the regulator in about a week on what they think about testimonials, right? Because I'm going to sit down with the auditor that's doing our audit for the firm and say, hey, this is a new policy. What kind of guidelines can you give me? Yeah. And then, but I can already see, like from the first few I did to today, I'm getting better at it, because I'm starting to say, okay, that worked, that didn't work. I had a guy that the first call was like, I just want to do the plan, because we always say, well, do your plan. If you want to work with us for money, for investments later, that's fine. And first call was like, yeah, that sounds good. By the end of the second call, he started asking me if I can do his taxes. Can I do, it's like, sure. So I guess we're going to work together, but we just haven't agreed to that yet.
Yeah.
When someone says, send me your tax organizer, you're pretty sure they're not just looking for a free organizer.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
I know that you've gotten, 3 clients so far?
I have 3 clients this week.
3 clients this week. Wow. Yeah.
And then I've got 2 other, I've got 2, or I would say 2 to 3 that I'm fairly confident will become clients. But, it's just a matter of, like I said, I'm not trying to, beat anybody's head against the desk to get them to buy. And, I think just, you were talking about some of the things in the program. Chris has been great. He probably doesn't even really realize one of the things that's probably been most impactful for me was just his calendar link. Because I went out and got, talk with DL versus go to calendly.com /this/that, whatever, and just got a personalized URL that forwards to the calendar. And it's just so easy to throw that in any message. and I've had several people go, oh yeah, I'll just hop on the calendar. That was really easy, right? Because it's just, I can remember it. I'm not trying to remember a web address.
Yeah.
So that was great. And he was super helpful, was always willing to spend extra time, on the office hours, making sure everything got answered, really helped me out in getting the VA hired. I'm still terrible at working with the VA, but like that's going to, work with time. And for the whopping $75 a week I'm paying them, I think I've got some, time to burn, and I'm getting stuff done and getting my value there without a doubt. So that's a huge help. Brianna was great in setting up the profile and walking through and customizing everything. Lee running the WAM calls, kept us on point. And then Kelly with the setup was amazing, just getting the program in and automated. And, it's like, okay, now I can get it live. And it's like, well, wait a minute, like just have to hit that button. Okay, let's see what happens. And, like I said, I had in the first half of the month in November, I had 29 connections. December, I had 218, and I've already had 145 this month. So I'm now averaging like 11 a day.
That's
cold
awesome.
Calling without cold calling.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And you've got that. I mean, guys, there's a lot to unpack here, what Dan's talking about, but a couple things, like I just put this on my screen here, having a domain where it's meetwithdan.com. For us, it's meetwithadvisorist. I'm going to do a little plug for Chris and the team. If you want to talk to the team and you want to like have a little 15-minute chat and just to see, is there an alignment here? Does it make sense for us to even go deeper and see if you guys want to experience the same results as Dan? Just go to meetwithadvisors.com and you can jump on a calendar there. We're going to ask you a couple of questions. It's just 15 minutes. No one's going to try to hard close you on anything. It's just to see, hey, can we help you out? Maybe, and if it's just to give you some tips, that's fine. We'll give you some tips. But if you guys want to jump on our calendar, you just go there to Meet with Advisors. But that's a great way. All of you should be like, meet with Susan, meet with Scott, meet with Jack, meet with Van.com, instead of sending people this long Calendly link. And then Dan, hiring a VA, can you tell us about that experience, a virtual assistant? Is that the first time you ever hired one?
Yeah, and I probably had to call Chris 3 times to have him like, no, really, go ahead, do this. This is how you got to do it. So it was a little, and I still, like today with everything I've got going on with other stuff, I didn't have anything to give him, but okay, so one day of not getting something done, I can live with that.
Yeah.
And the one I've got says he can do a video, and I just need to shoot some videos and have him start putting them together. And if he can do that, that'll be worth this, $70 a week just to get 2 or 3 little snippets for stuff that then can go in. And when I start getting video testimonials, just here's the stuff, put it together for me.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you've been in, and this is a great question we just got from a couple of people about, the life cycle of how long it takes for appointments to start coming in, right? And I've always told people, I said, the program is really going to start hitting some cylinders on day 45 because you're getting that, it's like the train leaving the station, right? Yeah. And you said November 16th, and now we're January 13th. So we're just over the 45-day mark. And you're almost on day 60, but we can already see, your calendar's starting to fill with appointments now, right?
Yeah. So I would, earlier, I was just looking back through my calendar for non-referral, just appointments that, magically appeared because someone stumbled across something. From like the 16th to the week of Christmas, I had 2 calls. Since then, I've had 10. So, it's just going to continue to build because the way that, kind of automated system works, like I said, the 6,000 messages that would be generated from what I did, just so far this month. Well, if that takes over, 40 something days to process through, if I'm getting 80, 90 messages out a day, like when I've got 90 messages times 45 days times, there's just, I just go like, thank God I'm not doing it. Let the machine do it. and I'll just sit back and wait for it. Because, I think you had said, the goal of the plan, 2 to 4 clients a month. I mean, I don't see that being a problem, provided I still have people to connect with. And, I mean, I think for most people, I had a pretty good network built up. Because I wrote it at 2,283 connections on LinkedIn before I started, and I went over 2,700 today. So that's almost a 20% increase, and that was with 2,000 connections. If you had 500, I think you'd double your connections in 3 months.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: would you say your appointments are now coming from these new tiers these new connections, or the connections you already had?
Oh no, the 10 those are just LinkedIn. This is from the program.
Yeah. So I think it's important for everybody to think about, because you actually came to the game with way more. I'd say the average, Chris, what would you say is the average connection somebody comes to us with?
I mean, under 1,000 for sure. Yeah, probably 300 to 500, I'd say.
Yeah. And so guys, we want you to know that whether, however you decide to implement LinkedIn for yourself, it's not about how much you have, it's about what you do starting now. And if it's somebody like Dan, I want you guys to really get present with this in terms of period of time, because, you might think LinkedIn is saturated because you're getting spammed every day by people who don't target you. They don't know exactly what you do, but it's like everything from, do you want me to build your logo, to do you want a website, to do you need like spiritual counseling? Do you want to lose weight? Like, it's crazy what's coming in. So the perception is this doesn't work because I'm getting spammed. But here's the thing, the financial services industry is still years behind what we're doing. And it is just a finite group of advisors. Even if we've helped 300 advisors go through this process, it still is not even a percent market share. Okay, so realize that put that in context. No matter if you've never done anything on LinkedIn, it's still just getting started in our space. And guys like Dan are perfect proof, right? He had 2,000 connections with no meetings, and in 6 weeks he's got 12. Like, this is an enduring asset, Dan, that you're going to have in your practice forever. You don't need to hire or buy leads anymore because you've built a machine that does it for you.
Yeah. And that's like the whole thing, this combined with the testimonial part, because I'm working with 2 companies. Like I'm already starting to go like, okay, how do I now use the Calendly link to send out that client satisfaction survey after the first appointment? So I start getting the feedback so I can start putting that together. So it's just, and that's the part of using the VA and getting all the other stuff that, it's a little bit, mind-boggling from that standpoint of now how do I start putting that together and do all this, and so it's just pulling it all together. And the other thing I think that just to bring it back to the way the meetings work, it is very much like cold calling, because like I said, I've had 145 new connections this month, but I've had 30 messages from people, right? So I'm getting so of the 145, I've gotten 30 of them have sent me messages. So if you were cold calling and 3% were responding, that's pretty good, right? And so that's the key. And then you put on top of it that you're going to be able to continue to put messages out in front of them. And, I think, like I said, if I can get 3 or 4 good testimonials that I can put out there, that's going to be part of the campaign or the follow-up when somebody calls, hey, here's some stuff you need to know about people that work at your company.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing that Vicky was asking, is like, are you focusing on 2 businesses or random people? So one of the things that we teach is you can go into an organization, right? Like a large employer in your backyard. That could be your niche, right? I was talking with 2 advisors today. The primary advisor came out of Merck. So what these guys do is they go into Merck because they have tons of Merck connections. And even if you guys look, Dan came from Canada, construction, and he's going into, okay, what are you going to show us here, buddy?
The manual for the company I work with.
Oh, so, my word.
When you talk to them and you go, hang on one second, especially when you're doing a virtual meeting and open it up and go, yeah, on page whatever, they just go, okay, I think you know what you're talking, you know what you're talking about. And you get one client there, and you're going to be able to get the manual, right? Like, hey, can you just send me your plan summary document? It's probably right there with your manual. Just send them both over. It'd be great to have a current copy.
That's great. You know what? I just got an idea for you. One of the videos you should do, you should hold up the manual in your prospecting video and say, "Hey, ABC company, this is the manual for your company. Do you know if you're getting the most from your, retirement plan or whatever your call to action is?"
You could
They're going
just
to be like,
you know where it is. I literally had one guy go, "What's that?"
yeah, they're like, "This, hey, by the
Awesome.
way, this is your manual. There's 762 pages. It weighs 5.9 pounds."
Yeah, keep the PDF. Don't print it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really compelling because what you can do is show people, I know more about your plan than you know. So why don't let's have a chat, right? And you know what, I got another idea. By the way, because you're a client, I want you and Chris to talk later. We have this new we have this new feature of our software. We're actually looking for beta testers where we will have an animated GIF inside your message that is personalized. So for example, I could be like this, holding a sign that says, "Hi, Dan," and it goes out at scale. So the next person says, "Hi, Susan. Hi, Eric. Hi, Gary. Hi, Shaniqua. Hi, Lati." It go just go like it's completely automated. You take the picture once, or
Yeah.
you can have it like you're drinking a cup of coffee, like, "Hey," like that. But I think we should do one with you for your manual, where you're holding up your manual, and then it says, "Hey, John," and then down below you say, "By the way, just for fun, here's a picture of me holding up the 765-page ABC company manual," smiley face. I think, Chris, can you help him, like, show him that thing? Because
Yeah.
we haven't even shown that to anybody. I just think that you should see that, and I think it would be hot because you're going into a company.
I'd be happy to test it for you.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll talk then.
And then of course Robert Sousa is jumping in. He wants to play with that too. That's great. Pamela's saying brilliant. Chris, anything else you want to ask Dan about? By the way, Dan, you didn't say anything about Chris. I want you to say something about Chris, but Chris will never ask you because he's very humble.
Yeah, no, I think the link was amazing. And then just like I said, all the time on those office hours, there's lots of people there. He made sure everybody got what they needed done. If you just came in and said, "Hey, you know what, I got a meeting. I need a quick question. I want to get out of here." He was great about getting people in and through. And he was great with getting me what I needed. And like I said, he was able to hold my hand through the reluctance on the virtual assistant, and just kept me on track.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, as we close out here, oh, Chris, you want to say something?
I want to say something about Dan here because I think there's something that all of us can learn from. Dan came in and executed, and he followed through. And the number one issue we see with people who do not have success in any program is the lack of execution and follow through. And so, Dan, I'll commend you for that. So I appreciate that. I mean, it's great to have this conversation with you after, we worked together and to get to this point. But it's so important. And I cannot say enough about that. That's the absolute key to everything.
Yeah. And I think that's the key to anything in life, right? Is take action. There's a lot of people who collect courses. Right. I used to be one of them. Oh my goodness, that looks awesome. I buy it, then I never do it. I don't do that anymore. Now I only buy whatever I need help with at that moment. And that's why we're smashing it right now. But that's, Dan, to your testimony, you're doing so good. We're so proud of you, man. And you are just positioning yourself at the bleeding edge of this whole industry. You got so much going for you, buddy. And we'll just wait. Like, I want us to have another chat 6 weeks from now, and I want to see, what's going on, in your appointment engine, because that would be great. We have so many people thanking you here. Guys, can you guys give a message here for Dan? What do you want me to say to him? Because here's a guy, he's a family man. He doesn't have to be here. He's not being paid. Dan, you're not being paid, right?
No, I'd be happy to be if you want, but I can send
Well, I
you.
want everybody to know that this is just you coming from a place of abundance, which is how our whole Shift Nation operates, right? We're here. We didn't charge you guys to be here for the Power Hour. I don't get paid to be here at Power. We're doing this to give back because we believe in the law of reciprocity, and we can't help the industry grow unless we step forward and take a leadership position to help other people without asking for anything. So I want you guys to see that there's peers like Dan that are out there ready and willing to help you as part of Shift Nation, as part of the Virtual Advisor Power Hour. Last question I have for you is, what would you say to an advisor that is kind of on the fence about moving forward with the program, a little scared because, hey, I was burnt in the past, or I tried something and it didn't work? Like, you were in their shoes, right? You tried this thing and it got so overwhelming and you stopped. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence about that?
I mean, I think the bottom line for most people, and for me too, because, I mean, I'm like the junior partner at the firm. I don't get all the revenue I bring in. So it's like, you look at it, I'm going to spend X. How long is it going to take me to make that money back, right? And just with the 3 clients that I've got right now, if you go to kind of big picture, the lifetime value of those 3 clients in probably 3 years would pay for the program. That's if I didn't get anybody else. I think at the rate I'm going between tax returns and just investment clients, by the time I'm done with tax season, I will probably have made the money back on the program. So, but, I mean, you guys said it, you got to execute it, right? Like I've got plenty of programs I haven't done, but I think the key was having the team with you, having Chris for the questions, having Brianna pushing you through, having Lee follow up with me, having Kelly get it set up and go, you launched, now flap your wings, right? Like, so that's the key, is you just have got to do it. Because I know there's people in the group I was in that are probably still working on their profile picture.
Yeah.
So, it's done is better than perfect.
Oh, there's the man. I love it. Yes, done is better than perfect. Progress, not perfection, right?
Yeah, and you can fix it. You can stop it. You can, I mean, and like even outside just the 2 companies I'm focusing on, which I've done a rough calculation, there's about another 20,000 connections I can go after. Like, there are so many different ways to target. If you don't want to do a company, I've just looked at now again, I have maybe a bigger network than some, but just in the county I'm in, if I put in people 20 plus years in their same position, I've got like 20,000 people just in the county. So they're like, it's once you get in and start using it, like I've woken up in the middle of the night going like, oh yeah, there's another idea, and then just go, all right, just let's wait, because the very first search I ran has not even run to completion. So
wow, you're still on your first campaign.
Like, it hasn't even completed yet. And I've got 4 others that I've just done the update and take the new ones in, because the second company that I'm going after, I had 14 connections in when I started, and I now have 150.
Yeah.
So that's the startup version of what I'm doing. And the company that I had 1,200, I now have 1,700 or 1,600.
Yeah, you said a really good point earlier, because you said that when people see you now and they see your name and they see 100 mutual connections, the likelihood of them saying yes is only going to grow exponentially, because they're like, well, if 100 of my co-employees are connected with this guy, he's safe.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
So
it's like, how do I not know?
Yeah, it's that whole recency, that's the psychology of recency. The more that you see a name or a face, even if there's no context to it, even if it's just the presence of that person, they say that if you see it 5 times or more, you end up trusting that person more, even though the person didn't say a thing. The only thing was they were just there.
Yeah, and
they were
like,
just there.
When I'm on LinkedIn, when I see any post from the company where it's somebody posted, I hit like, because then if one of their other coworkers hits like, there's my picture again. Right. So it's that same, you're just drip, drip, drip. You don't have to like congratulations on your work anniversary stuff, just like it.
Yeah.
Because when was the last time you saw anything your name on, you didn't look at who liked it? Right? Like, and then just kind of a different subject, but because of the idea of, you guys got to post and share and do that, and some of the things that the other people in the group where we've done try to kind of help boost posts. My girlfriend saw something about one of the people at one of my companies and said, "Oh, you should post this." I'm like, okay. 22,000 views later, because it took off. The guy got appointed to a position in the Biden administration, and everybody and their brothers thanking him. But like, I reached out to the guy, I connected with him, and so at my other key company, they just got a new CEO. Day one, I sent a connection request. I'm connected to the CEO now. So like, just send connection requests. What are they going to do? Say no? It's like a cold call.
Except much less demoralizing.
Yes. Yeah, 'cause let's not touch on the fact I've sent out 900 connections, only got 140, 140 in. Those other 600 or 750,
Yeah. Well, with our program, the software can still message the other 600, which is what not a lot of people know or what we talk about. But there's, basically we can get almost near 100% hit rates to anybody, almost anywhere. Just ask us about it on our meeting. If you guys want to join us, meetwithadvisors.com. There's other ways to do that. So I got another idea for you, Dan.
okay.
Since you're already kind of growing in that company, and that CEO must have come in the last 2 months, right?
Yeah, it was like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would write a handwritten note and maybe put something fun like a Starbucks gift card. Hey, we're connected on LinkedIn. I saw your CEO. I know you must have big visions. Just wanted to buy you a coffee and tell you kudos and wishing you success. I work with a lot of your employees. Just wanted to wish you the best. Like that'll totally blow the guy's mind. He's immediately going to look you up on LinkedIn and be like, who sent me this free coffee?
Yeah.
That's a really effective way. It costs you $10. And then you could follow up a week later. Hey, just making sure you got your coffee, and then you could show a picture of yourself drinking a cup of coffee with him, like, hey, the little selfie kind of thing. Yeah, awesome.